Hello everyone and welcome back to Sketching with Shaw. Today I'm going to be attempting, and I use that word very lightly, attempting to animate on KRITA using nothing but mouse and keyboard. Now I've never done this before. I've always used a pen when I animated, so it's going to be an experience, that's for sure. But let's get right into it, shall we? Alright, ladies and gentlemen, so I loaded it straight into the animation workspace. So I guess we can start out by making this a blank frame down here at the bottom and turn our onion skins on. And the plan is I want to draw a sheet kind of dropping down on a ghost right here in the middle, but you ain't going to be able to see the ghost. But the corners are going to flop down and kind of just go over the ghost and make the silhouette of the ghost. And then after it forms to the ghost, I'm going to have the eyes pop in kind of like this, and then he's going to fly off the screen. That's the hopes anyway. It's easy to imagine something, but putting in the work is a whole nother ballpark. Alright, so we got our first frame figured out, so let's go ahead and start. We want to figure out where we want the head of said ghost to be at. Hold on, let's see. Can we turn stabilizer on? Yeah, there we go. That way it'll help us a little bit in the inking process, but go ahead, map out where the ghost head's going to be at, and then we're going to start the edge of our blanket or sheet. And well, I got to kind of move this. It's not centralized, but... And with that being done, we got our first sketch frame being done. So let's move on to our next. Go ahead and put him back in the center there. And now the hard part is adding some droop to this sheet to actually make it look like it's falling. And I'm still learning how to animate normally on pens, so... But on to our next frame. Go ahead and put him back in the center there. Go ahead and add a little bit more drip to the sheet. And now it's going to start wrapping around the front of his face. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is a lot funner than I thought it would be. I thought it would be a lot more tedious, but I'm sure if I turn my stabilizer back off, I'm sure it would be. But we ain't about to do that, brother. We ain't about to do that. Alright, and this is where the swoosh motion really comes into play. I want these end flaps to really just fly down toward the bottom. Now y'all can kind of see what I'm trying to get at. Now we got to go back into our in-between frames. So now you see now we have a green outline, which is our next frame, and our red one is our previous frame, and green is our next frame. So now we just got to figure out how our sheet wants to look in between the two frames. And now our blanket's going to kind of settle over the ghost. Now it's done flop down, now it's going to settle in its position. Do the back of the sheet. And this is where I want the eyes to start popping in. So I'm going to just outline the lines we already have. And then I'm going to add the lines for the eyes after this. And I want one of them to be flat, and I want the other one to just start to be opening, because I don't want them opening at the same time. And now we just got to copy this line again, and then just draw the eyes a little bit more open. And now this left eye is going to start to be opening, while the right one's going to be fully open. And once again, just copying this baseline we got down. Because right now we're just mainly focusing on the eyes of the ghost. There we go. Now we're going to put both eyes fully open. And once again, just following this line. And now we're going to start animating the mouth as well. And now the plan is to make him go from here, and so his head kind of be like here, to make it kind of swoop down and then fly off the screen kind of in this direction. So this is the pathway I want his head to be And then his face and eyes is going to be roughly about right here, you know what I'm saying? And he's going to just swoosh, whip off the screen. That's the hopes anyway. Like I said, it's easy to imagine things, but it's harder to do the work. So I guess my next frame, he should probably be about right here, and just show the start of the swoop. And then throw the eyes in there. They're going to kind of squint because he's going to be kind of flying toward the screen. And now this next frame, he's going to get super close to the camera. So probably about right here. And then put a little bit more exaggeration into the swing of the sheet. Like it's kind of flopping over. And then right here, I'm going to exaggerate the eyes to make it really look like he's stretching out toward the screen. As well as I'm going to stretch out the mouth to just further indicate his stretching out toward the screen. Now this next frame, I'm going to put the top of the head about right here, and then just swoop it back down in the direction that the sheet was flying in. And now that he's going a little bit faster, the sheet's going to kind of conform to him a little bit. And now in this next frame, the top of our ghost is just zooming off the screen, and we don't really see the top of the head anymore. And now the eyes are just getting exaggerated off the screen as well as the top of the head. But they're still getting stretched quite far. Because like I said, I want to keep the stretch still in there. And now in our next frame, he's pretty much off the screen. You see a little bit of the eyes, but now in this frame, all you see is the bottom of the mouth. And then our last frame is you just barely see the sheet as it's flying off the left side of the screen. And now I'm just going to go back and add some motion lines or some wind lines to the sheet to make it just add a little bit more animation to the flow of it, to make it look like it's fitting together better. And with that, that's pretty much the sketch part of it being done, at least. Now let's go back and just see our animation, how good it looks. Hey, for that being on mouse and keyboard, that don't look too bad. Let's just slow it down and space them out. Now that we got it spaced out, let's rewatch it. And spacing it out really helped the flow of the animation. It looks a lot better. And now all I gotta do is go back through and do the line art process. Now let's go ahead and add a new layer. This is gonna be our inking layer. Now I'm not gonna draw the head because I want the head to be invisible. So I'm just gonna draw the sheet in here and just ignore the head. Alright, got our first frame. Moving on to the second frame here. Sheet starts to fall. Once again, not drawing the actual head. Don't forget to add our wind lines in there to further indicate the motion. And my hand was starting to cramp up right here, but because holding the giant mouse instead of just being able to just hold the little pin, you could really tell a difference after a little while, but it is what it is. And then these next couple frames, I just kept sketching over the lines that we had. And knowing the fact that there's some people that choose to animate with just a mouse, just knowing those people exist is insane. But finish up these last couple frames, and then we'll pretty much be done with the inking process as well. And now if we go back and turn the opacity down on our sketch layer, now we'll just see the line art layer. And hey, that's not looking too shabby. I'm pretty happy with that. Plus, for a beginner animator anyway, it's just getting used to pen, I feel like for a mouse, that's pretty good. And now I'm going to try to go back and add just a little bit of color. So I'm going to pick me a lightish bluish gray kind of color and just go back and fill in every single layer. Which you can see I kind of missed a few layers, so I had to go back and fill in the lines. And now I'm just going to go in with a black and start filling in the eyes and the mouth. And after I do that, we'll pretty much have a finished ghost animation. Now if we go back to the beginning and push play here, we'll have the full complete animation. And overall, I'm happy with how that turned out. For just being a beginner animator and using the mouse, I thought it would take, for one, a lot longer. It only took me 57 minutes. It was a lot funner than I thought it was going to be. I'm sure if I didn't have stabilizer, it would have been a lot more tedious, but anyway, I'm happy with how the animation turned out. And I like the sheet falling down. I feel like that's pretty smooth, but I feel like the flying toward the camera could have been a little bit smoother, but I feel like that's about as smooth as it's gonna get using a mouse and keyboard. Well, that pretty much sums it up for today's video. Overall, I'm happy with how the animation turned out, considering I was only using the mouse and keyboard, that is. But let me know in the comments how good you think I done. Or if you have any art you'd love to share with me, I'd love to see it over on my Instagram, where I like and share it to my page. And I usually don't bring this up, but I'm super close to 100 subscribers. So if y'all don't mind, please consider subscribing. But y'all already know, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see y'all next week.